or have another print disability which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Pat Connolly, and for the next hour I'll be reading from current issues of the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. These are issues from Thursday, July 9th through Tuesday, July 14th. I'll concentrate on articles of local interest. And for things that have gone by, I'll either just mention them in passing or abbreviate them. First, from the Thursday, July 9th issue of the Observer, page 1. This is an event that has already passed but may be of some interest. Harbor Cruise is Sunday at Point, and I do not know how to pronounce this. In French it'd be Gratio, but it's Gratiot, so I will guess it might be something like Gratiot. Just the first paragraph. The annual tradition that takes over Point Gratiot Park is back this Sunday. Hundreds of classic car owners and admirers will line the Lake Erie shore for one of the area's most impactful events. The Lakeshore Street Rod Association's annual Harbor Cruise is on Sunday. That would be July 12th. That date is past. From noon to 5 p.m. at Dunkirk's Point Gratiot Park. So anyway, that event took place on this past Sunday, the 12th of July. Also from the first page of July 9th, a long article which I will abbreviate. Fredonia hires 4 more teachers. The list of new teachers at Fredonia Central Schools next year continues to grow, as several new hires were approved at the latest Board of Education meeting. Alec Chambers was appointed as the district's newest mathematics teacher, while Kayla Orbaker was appointed as Fredonia's new Spanish teacher. The board also approved 2 new career and technical education teachers, including Paige Bernhardt, a business and marketing teacher, as well as Dawn Stewart, a family and consumer science teacher. I'll abbreviate that one right there. For any article that's abbreviated, if you wish to hear the remainder, please call 716-821-5555, and a Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service staff member will be happy to read the remainder to you. Still from the July 9th, Thursday, July 9th issue, front page, Boost for Shelter. NCCR, which is what? Northern Chautauqua Canine Rescue. NCCR awarded $500,000 grant for new site. Northern Chautauqua Canine Rescue has been awarded a $500,000 Companion Animal Capital Projects Fund grant from the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets to support construction of a new shelter. NCCR is one of 12 organizations statewide selected to receive funding through the Companion Animal Capital Projects Fund. Competitive grants were awarded based on demonstrated need, detailed project descriptions, and the reasonableness of projected costs. New York is investing nearly $10 million in animal shelters and rescue organizations across the state to upgrade aging facilities and strengthen care for dogs, cats, and other companion animals awaiting adoption. And I will abbreviate that one right there. From page A2 of the July 9th Observer, there are 2 obits. I'll just read the names and dates. Christine Lillian Huff, 1951 to 2026, and Marcia L. Diefenbach, 1943 to 2026. If you'd like to hear the obit, please call Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, again 716-821-5555. Going on. opinion article from the editors of the Observer on page A4, getting a better take on Fredonia project, about the water troubles in Fredonia. And this is called The Observer's View. So I think it's from the editors. No one is quite sure what to expect in terms of attendance at today's public information session, that would have been July 9th, that focuses on the future of the Fredonia water system. Adding to some of the confusion, the event is taking place at the new Pomfret Town Hall from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at 10410 Chestnut Road in Dunkirk. What those who attend will see is a signboard station format. Stations will be positioned around the venue with poster boards sharing information on various aspects of the project, according to an informational flyer released early Monday by the village government, by the Village of Fredonia government. Fredonia is attempting to connect with the North County Water District with eyes on decommissioning the village's own treatment plant and reservoir. Despite recent comments from those opposing the move, officials are hoping to avoid a debate. A letter in Wednesday's Observer probably put it best when noting the possible transition. Quoting, "This means working together without malice, becoming dutifully informed, and accepting that the perspectives of others may be valid," wrote Pamela Ruiz of the village. Continuing the quotation, "Intimidation, baiting, and taunting have no place in our decision-making process." End quote. Very well said, says the Observer in concluding that opinion piece. On page A5 of the July 9th Observer, about an event that has passed but may be of interest, about domestic abuse. She is safe of Chautauqua County to host benefit Saturday, which has passed. What was that, July 11th? Mayville, by Sarah Holthouse, Mayville. Rebecca Magnuson has been focused on helping victims of domestic violence for many years, and her work continues on Saturday, I think that was July 11th, with a benefit set to be held at her former Mayville restaurant. A domestic violence survivor herself, Magnuson began her nonprofit She Is Safe of Chautauqua County 2 years ago in February. Her restaurant, She Sings Cafe, hired many victims of abuse, and Magnuson is also currently working on finding a platform for her 5-part documentary series, She Sings. She also has her own one-woman show since 2018. Magnuson's restaurant has since shut down. As she said, it was taking every bit of her time, and she wanted to be able to focus more on the other sections of her work, helping domestic violence victims. So, quoting, "So that is why I have shut the restaurant down, and we're going full force with She Is Safe," Magnuson said. "We will be having benefit dinners, concerts here to help victims of abuse in Chautauqua County, and at the same time, we're getting my She Sings tour started back up again, and we're also actively finding a platform for the documentary series." While the building is up for sale, Magnuson plans to continue to make use of the space until it is sold to hold events to help domestic violence survivors. The first benefit dinner event is set for this Saturday at the restaurant 95 Westlake Road from 5 to 9 p.m. That would have been July 11th. And so I'll abbreviate this article at this point. From the entertainment page, page A7 of July 9th, Gin Game, coming to Westfield Center. A deck of cards has rarely felt so loaded. Directed by David Oliver, D.L. Coburn's Pulitzer Prize-winning The Gin Game runs at Lakeshore Center for the Arts in Westfield on July 17th, 18th, 19th, 24th, 25th, and 26th. With sharp humor and mounting tension, the play turns a simple game of gin into a revealing study of aging, loneliness, and life's uneasy dependence on chance. On the back porch of a nursing home, new residents Weller and Fanzia, played by Tom Laughlin and Christina Rausa, begin to know one another over games of gin. The porch's stillness contrasts with the lively world inside, while Visitors' Day quietly underscores their isolation. As the games repeat, Weller counts cards, ridicules fellow residents, resents being treated like a child, and grows increasingly furious at losing, while Fanzia keeps calling gin hand after hand. For all its laughter, the gin game is ultimately a comedic tragedy revealing truths about illness, financial insecurity, aging, and the ache of loneliness. The Gin Game is part of Lakeshore Center for the Arts 2026 season, running July 17th, 18th, 24th, 25th at 7 p.m. and 2 p.m. matinees on July 19th and 26th. Please purchase $20 tickets online at Lakeshore Center for the Arts, all one word, Lakeshore Center for the Arts.com/gin-game. Again, Lakeshore Center for the Arts.com/gin-game. End of article. Moving now to the Friday, July 10th issue of The Observer. On the front page, Woman Takes on Area Housing Insecurity by John Whitaker. A documentary photographer's 7,000-mile, 30-city project documenting housing insecurity will begin Monday in Jamestown. Monday, that would be July 13th. Karen Lippowitz, apparently, Lippowitz. Karen Lippowitz is in the midst of her newest project, Extended Stay, an exhibit that will cross 13 states and 30 cities across Appalachia from New York to Mississippi. As part of the work, Lippowitz will live and work in low-budget motels and hotels, documenting what Lippowitz described as America's shadow housing system and the people relying on temporary rooms, long-term stays, shelters, and other unstable arrangements as permanent housing costs continue to increase. Lippowitz told the Post-Journal she selected Jamestown and Chautauqua County because it is among the Appalachian Regional Commission's group of communities defined as at risk and facing economic distress. Quotation, I chose Jamestown and Chautauqua County because they sit within the Appalachian Regional Commission's designated county of distress, while also reflecting many pressures I'm seeing across post-industrial communities like my home of Detroit. Limited affordable housing, poverty, aging infrastructure, temporary shelter systems, and people living in arrangements never meant to become permanent, Lippowitz said Thursday. I also have a personal connection to the southern tier, having lived in Ithaca, where I will travel after Jamestown, I'm interested in how housing insecurity appears in smaller cities and former industrial communities, not only in the places people traditionally associate with Appalachia. Jamestown will be my first official stop along my 7,000-mile, 30-city route. The project will culminate in a large-scale immersive exhibition in Huntington, West Virginia, planned for October 2027. The exhibition is supported by Coalfield Development Corporation, West Edge, and Recreate Appalachia. It will combine photography, oral history, sound, recreated motel room environments, and interactive elements. Okay, I'll abbreviate that one there. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier radio reading service. Continuing now to another article on the front page of the Friday, July 10th Observer, Persistent Protest. This article is very long, and I will read only the beginning paragraphs, but you can hear the rest by calling NFRRS at 716-821-5555 to hear the rest. Persistent Protest. Request to rescind Portland resolution ignored by Braden Carman from Portland, New York. Community members in Portland have not wavered in their opposition to the idea of a data center coming to town at the site of the former Sugar Hill Golf Course on Route 5. At least a dozen members of the public have attended each of the 4 meetings in protest since the town board issued a vague resolution in general support of the concept back in March. Every comment from the audience has been in opposition of a data center calling Portland home. In opposition to a data center calling Portland home. Likewise, the town board has remained just as consistent in its stance. If a proposal is submitted to the town, they will look at it. So far, that has not happened. Supervisor Rich Lewis received a phone call prior to the March 11th meeting of the town board from the property owner of Sugar Hill Golf Course, expressing a desire to welcome a data center to the property. In recent years, the former Sugar Hill Golf Course has deteriorated into an eyesore from what was once a beautiful lakefront property along Route 5. A data center is not a permitted use of land in the town of Portland, but Lewis and the board decided that if a project is proposed, it will follow the proper procedures. The board will follow the proper procedures to determine whether a change to the town code or a special use permit is warranted. If all of the necessary steps are followed before the project makes its way to the town board, they will consider approving it. Quoting, "The resolution really didn't have any teeth for anything other than to say that there was general support and we were open to looking at what they were proposing," Lewis said, and I'll abbreviate the article here. But there is more. Directly beneath, there is an opinion piece called Editor's Corner from John D'Agostino, of which I will read about 6 paragraphs. Area fully plugged in to data center debate. Maybe Portland Town Supervisor Rich Lewis and town board members were testing the waters in March. That is when the legislative body passed a resolution expressing its support for a proposed data center to be located on the grounds of the former Sugar Hill Golf Course. If anything, they had the residents at a boiling point. Within the next 3 months, an online petition was started, and a Facebook Grape Belt community group with a modest 210 members was started to send a message of opposition to any such plan. Located near the shoreline along Route 5, the former golf course property is overgrown and unkempt. In November November 2024, the town voiced its strong opposition to an inquiry from New York State Department of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation regarding a purchase of the land. The town board did not want to give up more property from its tax roll, including the sizable plots utilized for Lake Erie State Park and Lakeview Correctional Facility. Western New York and Chautauqua County are not alone in the anxiety. Across the nation, data centers have become the hot button, not in my backyard item that solar panels and wind turbines were for the previous 2 decades. With renewable energy, With renewable energy, campaigns in Westfield in the early 2000s included bumper stickers with the phrase, "Good idea, bad location." Even today, there's a consistent and vocal movement to keep the tall towers and spinners out of Lake Erie. That would be the wind turbines. In May, the Rockefeller Institute of Government released a policy brief detailing the rapid increase in planned data centers and the responses by federal, state, and local governments to address energy, water, and other concerns associated with these projects. As generative artificial intelligence, or AI, cryptocurrency mining, and cloud-based storage expand, data centers have become the essential backbone of the modern internet. While these facilities offer potential for economic growth and expanded local tax bases, they also present significant demands on public infrastructure, including intense energy and water usage. The report, which can be found at, and then this is a little too long of a URL to read well, but anyway, no, I don't think I can read it. You'll have to call and ask for it. But it is titled Clouds, Cables, and Megawatts, States and localities grapple with the data center boom. That's the name of the report. It examines how different jurisdictions are balancing competing priorities through new regulatory frameworks and legislative actions. This goes on quite a ways. I'll cut it here. Still from the front page of Friday, July 10th. South Dayton dissolution vote set for Tuesday. That was July 14th, now passed, by Gregory Bacon. I will read only the first several sentences. There are 9 villages in Cattaraugus County. That total may soon reduce to 8. On Tuesday, July 14th, residents in the village of South Dayton will be headed to the polls to decide if they want to dissolve their village government. If approved, all assets will eventually be turned over to the town of Dayton. And I'll cut that one off there. On page 2, there is an obit for Jackie Kopczynski, born Jacobson, 1953 to 2026. If you wish to hear the obit or the remainder of any other article, call Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 716-821-5555. An article from South Dayton, unhappy article. South Dayton man pleads guilty to enticement, sex with girl. A South Dayton man has pleaded guilty to enticement and having sex with a 14-year-old girl. U.S. Attorney Michael DiGiacomo announced Thursday that Ronald A. Howard, 59, entered a plea before U.S. District Judge John L. Sinatra Jr. It carries a mandatory minimum penalty of 10 years in prison and a maximum of life. Between March 16th and April 10th, 2024, Howard, then 57 years old, communicated via text messaging and Snapchat with a 14-year-old female, during which the two engaged in sexual conversation and discussed meeting to engage in sexual activity. Howard knew the victim was 14. During the conversation, Howard asked the victim to send him a naked picture, which she did. Subsequently, Howard and the victim met on 2 occasions and engaged in sexual activity. Okay, I'll cut that one off there. Moving on now to the Sunday Observer for Saturday and Sunday, July 11th and 12th. Front page. Dad calls victim Strong Family Man by John D'Agostino. Family and friends of Delaney K. Williams want the community to know the 25-year-old was a caring father and a family man. Their recollection of him comes days after he was identified in the Observer as the shooting victim last month in the city of Dunkirk. Quoting, "He actually got to the point where he wanted to raise a family and wanted to try to turn his life around to be a productive person in society," said Harrison Williams, his father. Slowly, he was starting to do that, end quote. Shortly before 10 p.m., June 11th, Dunkirk officers responded to a shooting and located the younger Williams, who was suffering from a single gunshot wound. He was transported to Brooks TLC Hospital, where he later succumbed to his injuries. "Our family has been destroyed," his father said. "We're in pieces." Okay, abbreviating that article at that point. About the plans for the Fredonia water system. Torrent of detail flows at water event by M.J. Stafford. 6 stations defined Fredonia's water information session Thursday, an event that felt as much promotional as informational. Village of Fredonia and Chautauqua County Health Department officials were joined by representatives of the La Bella engineering firm, which is handling the planned connection with the North County Water District in hosting the event. It was held at the town of Pomfret's new town hall building on Chestnut Road, which has not yet been renovated for its new purpose. The building used to be a church, and the session was held in part of the former sanctuary where services used to be held. Dozens of sweaty Fredonians crammed together in the rear behind the pews centering around the 6 stations. The place had no air conditioning, and many found it uncomfortably hot. Despite the steamy atmosphere, the Observer observed no bad behavior during its time in the sauna. Several in the community had expressed concerns about disruptive behavior at the event, but there didn't seem to be any of that. Chautauqua County Sheriff James Quattrone was mingling with the crowd in uniform just to make sure. The stations described Fredonia's plans for the NCWD North County Water District connection, but also seemed to belittle its current reservoir and dam. The village government plans to decommission the reservoir and dam when the NCWD hookup is complete. Abbreviating the article there, let's go on to the next. The obits in this Saturday-Sunday issue of July 11th and 12th are Michael Paul Austin, 1980 to 2026, David J. Karpinski, April 2nd, 1941 to July 8th, 2026, and Linda June Hancock, born Silagi. If you would like to hear those obits, please call 716-821-5555, and Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service staff will read them to you. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier radio reading service. And let's continue with the Saturday, Sunday, July 11 and 12 issues. From the opinion page, here is the Observer's view about a local school. Drastic change for area school. Chautauqua County's only Catholic school is in the midst of a transition. With the resignation of Principal Paul Pinto, the Northern Chautauqua Catholic School lost a key leader. Just like one of his predecessors in Andrew Ludwig, Pinto was a cheerleader and advocate for the institution. Quoting, "It has been an honor and a privilege to be your principal," Pinto said in a message to NCCS families. What is that? The school name, right? Northern Chautauqua Catholic School families. Continuing the quotation, "My door and office are full of cards from students, their artwork, and surprise messages from the last 18 months. We cried together, shared in disagreements, but only to grow in faith and love for one sole benefit, your children," end quote. Pinto's last day was June 30th. In the meantime, the diocese has taken the lead on operations. Though it has the power to do so, it is a drastic change. For years, especially in the recent turmoil, the diocese has almost had a hands-off approach with the Dunkirk parochial school. It was up to those locally I think this is a typo. It was up to those locally connected to keep it running while maintaining a strong Catholic presence. This new direction, without question, is a sudden change. Jolene M. Dimitrov, Superintendent of Catholic Schools with the Diocese of Buffalo, said the organization is actively seeking a new principal for the school. She also noted, "I want to be very clear. Northern Chautauqua Catholic School will remain open." Dimitrov's bold statement comes after a lack of financial investment by the diocese to the location through the years. Let's face it, money is the key piece to having NCCS to thrive and continue to be a major part of this community. It has a proud and mighty tradition. In recent years, it has a proven ability to stand strong. But a lot of that spirit came from leadership within the school walls. At the moment, that is absent. Here is part of a long article on page A5 of the Saturday, July 11th issue of the Observer. Chautauqua Belle celebrates 50th birthday on Chautauqua Lake, by John Whitaker. "Old-time riverboat to Ply Lake" was the headline of a story recounting a Mayville Village Board meeting on October 9th, 1973. Little did Post-Journal readers know, when they picked up their paper that day, the then unnamed replica steamboat whistle would become one of the most familiar sounds to anyone who would spend much time on Chautauqua Lake for the next 5 decades. Saturday, July 11th, the Chautauqua Belle will celebrate its 50th birthday with specially priced cruises and a trip past Midway State Park, which will be launching fireworks as part of its own anniversary celebration. The party comes 50 years after the Chautauqua Belle's first cruise on Chautauqua Lake and 23 years after it looked like the Belle might not celebrate another birthday. What follows is a brief trip through time explaining how the Belle has arrived at a point in its history where it is the undisputed queen of Chautauqua Lake. However, I must abbreviate the article at that point. From page A7 of the Saturday, July 11th issue, police seeking Hamburg suspect in business robberies. The City of Dunkirk Police Department has issued an arrest warrant for a Hamburg man wanted in connection with third-degree robbery and a third-degree attempted robbery of two businesses that occurred in the city last month, City of Dunkirk. Police are looking for 32-year-old Robert Lyman. He also is facing charges from the Town of Hamburg Police Department for a similar incident. Anyone with information regarding Lyman's whereabouts is asked to call the Dunkirk Police Department at 716-366-2266. Here's part of another very long article about the end of Bush Industries in the Jamestown area. Report provides glimpse into Bush Industries' final days by John Whitaker. The first report by the receiver appointed to oversee the bankruptcy of the Bush Industries and its parent company paints an interesting picture of the company's demise. Founded in 2021 and headquartered in Sherbrooke, Quebec, eSolutions Furniture was a North American e-commerce seller of residential and commercial furniture. The company's family of brands included Best Star, Bush Furniture, and Bush Business Furniture, BBF, bringing together the legacy of Best Star, founded in 1948, and Bush Industries, founded in 1959. Following the official announcement on May 1st that eSolutions was closing its plants, including the Bush Industries facility in the Mason Industrial Park in Ellicott, the company was placed into receivership to undergo a liquidation process that will conclude by the end of 2026. And I'll abbreviate that article there with this abbreviated article and all others. You can hear the rest of the article by calling us at 716-821-5555. This article was on page A6 of the Saturday, July 11th Observer. Moving now to the Monday, July 13th Observer, Dunkirk Fredonia Observer, about Fredonia High School. Singing Praises. Fredonia Music Department maintains high standards by Braden Carman. It would not be hard to make the point that the Fredonia Central School District is one of the best music schools in New York State. The district certainly has the resume to prove it. This year, Fredonia was selected as a recipient of the Best Community for Music Education honor by the National Association of Music Merchants for the 14th consecutive year. A total of 274 solos were performed by Fredonia students at the county and state levels just this year, and more than 200 places in county and state ensembles were filled by Fredonia students. Two Fredonia students, Grant Abbey and Claire McMurdy D'Amato, were even selected as all-state musicians, and Abbey was accepted to the world-renowned Juilliard School for Gifted Musicians as a double bassist. The list of honors at Fredonia is never short, as the music department continues to match its exceptional standard each year. Music instructional leader Andy Bennett was proud to share the highlights of the district's programs at a recent board education meeting. We're very, very proud of our students, Bennett said. Fredonia's enrollment K through 12 this year was 1,394. Of that number, 1,157 students were enrolled in music courses. 914 students participated in curricular ensembles, and 578 students participated in extracurricular music activities in grades 4 through 12. Nearly 100 students have signed up for summer lessons as well. Okay. regarding the dredging of Cattaraugus Creek and Hanover Harbor. Hanover eyes spring of 2027 for dredging of creek, by Braden Carman. Hanover. The town of Hanover has to wait a little longer before moving forward with the dredging of Cattaraugus Creek and Hanover Harbor. After advertising for bids regarding dredging services, the town received 2 bids on Monday, June 15th. However, the bids varied dramatically, with a difference in cost of roughly $60,000. Supervisor Lou Pelletier felt that the work is not comparable, and rather than accept one of the bids, the town board elected to re-advertise the bid specifications in hopes of a different outcome. The town board tabled a resolution to accept a bid for the work at its latest meeting. Once the new bids are submitted, the town board will reevaluate. Dave Romano of GEI Consultants is assisting the town in the dredging process. If a bid is accepted for the necessary work to dredge Cattaraugus Creek and Hanover Harbor, it will come down to finding the right time to do the work. The initial target the town had in mind for the work to begin was in spring of 2027, and as of the last meeting, that time frame still seems feasible. The town is being careful to avoid dredging the creek and the harbor around the various fishing tournaments held annually in Hanover. The town hopes to coordinate the timing of the work with the county, the state, and the Army Corps of Engineers. Abbreviating that article there. A new article about Fredonia's water system from the Monday, July 13th Observer. Front page. Village Water District Talks Ongoing by M.J. Stafford. Fredonia trustee Paul Wandel offered more updates about village water talks with the North County Water District Monday, ahead of much anticipated water information session Thursday about plans to connect with the district, with the North County Water District. Wandel said at a Fredonia Board of Trustees meeting last week that he met with Mayor Michael Ferguson and NCWD, North County Water District, representatives on June 25th. He listed points that came up. 1. Discussion and preliminary review of the proposed NCWD contract with the village. There would be cyclical 5-year review of the contract. 2. The village would need 1 seat on the board out of 11 board members. 3. Discussion of potential proposed rate fees of dollar cost per 1,000 gallons of purchased water. 4. It was noted that the Dunkirk Lakeshore Water Treatment Plant has invested $25 million in recent years, and this information is not official. 5. Contract being reviewed by the NCWD for additional language and to improve understanding of the cost versus usage formula. So, this contract is under review if it's being developed currently. End quote. Wandel soon added that on June 30th he met with Labella Engineering and Ferguson. All discussion focused on the new water project, he said. Ferguson soon added, quoting, "In no way does this change the decision that this is going forward. This was passed. It was passed close to a year ago now, and we are well on our way. It is what is best for the village of Fredonia, and we are giving you an opportunity to look at the costs that are associated. For less than the anticipated, no, far less than the anticipated costs for what it would take to redo our reservoir." End quote. Ferguson's final statement is challenged by Save Our Reservoir, the activists who decry the village's plan to get NCWD water. They cite a study by former village administrator James Sedota and some of Labella's own numbers in stating that the NCWD route will actually be more expensive in the long run. Wandel continued that Labella has done such things as a topographical survey, environmental and geophysical work, and water quality and blending testing. Quoting, engineering design work is now in process. Interconnection, building sites, and locations are now under planning and review. The idea and plan there is to build about 5 vaults in the area of the village for interconnection purposes. These would contain pumps or dosing facilities to maybe boost the chlorine levels. Wandel concluded the water source project is advancing very well. Momentum is established and project milestones are being achieved. End quote, and I'll abbreviate the article there. On page A2, there is an obit, a single obit for Cindy J. Height Wilson, 1957 to 2026, Silver Creek, it says. If you would like to hear this obit, please call Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 716-821-5555. The same for any other abbreviated article. From page A5 of the Monday, July 13th Observer, Tobacco Business Mobile Home Park found guilty of violations, by Jeffrey Bacon. A judge has found a North County business guilty of violating a state law for selling tobacco products, as well as a South County mobile home park for not submitting required water reports. A representative with NF Sparks Incorporated, which is located at 105 to 107 Lakeshore Drive Lakeshore Drive East, Dunkirk, appeared before the Honorable Betsy S. Stager, the designated Chautauqua County Board of Health hearing officer. The business was accused of selling an illegal flavored vapor product to an individual under the age of 21. Jessica Wuerstle? Maybe Wuerstle, Wuerstle, with the County Health Department, told the Board of Health her office sent an underage individual to the business to see if that person could purchase a tobacco product, and that person was sold the flavored vape. After being found guilty by Stager, the business was fined a total of $655, $300 for selling a tobacco product to a person under 21, $100 for selling a flavored vape product, and a $250 surcharge. 2 points were also placed on the business's license. If the business gets 3 points in a 3-year period, the business can have its tobacco license suspended for a year. This was the first time NF Sparks Incorporated has been cited. In a separate hearing, Garfield Village Mobile Home Park, which is located at 3017 Garfield Road, Bustye, was accused of not submitting multiple water reports last year to the county. Reports not submitted in 2025 included lead and copper monitoring requirements, nitrate monitoring requirements, disinfection byproducts / stage 2 monitoring requirements, synthetic organic chemical monitoring requirements, and minimum PFOA, PFOS, and 1,4, I think this must be a misprint, dion monitoring requirements. I think it's dioxin, probably. According to Worstley, during the hearing, a representative with the mobile home park told the judge that he believed a lab was supposed to be taking care of these reports, but no samples were ever submitted. The mobile home park was found guilty and fined a total of $4,200, $3,950 for the numerous missing reports, and a $250 administrative fee. The County Board of Health unanimously approved the fines. Moving on to our most recent paper here, the Tuesday, July 14th issue of the Dunkirk Observer. On the front page, about the Dunkirk City Schools, Rising City Data. Dunkirk Schools note growth in scores, graduation. The Dunkirk Board of Education both looked back and moved forward at its July meeting. The board heard a rather positive report summarizing 2025-26 from Superintendent Brian Swatland, and also held a reorganization session to appoint officers for the upcoming 2026-27 school year. Swatland said the district is mostly meeting its educational goals, offering several promising statistics. For example, the percentage of students who are considered high growth in reading has risen 6 points, from 36% to 42%. The median level of reading, basically the proficiency of the average city student, also went up 6 percentage points. The graduation rate went up 7 points, from 77% to 84%. There was also a 15% decrease in absenteeism, Swatland said. The superintendent credited, quoting, "the hard work of teachers, our clerical staff, our administration at the building level and at the district level for helping the students improve. They did a phenomenal amount of work, and it shows in our data," Swatland said. Abbreviating the article there, let's go on to another. An upcoming event on the front page, this says Ox Roast benefits St. Jude's on Sunday. Fredonia, by M.J. Stafford. Fredonia's Sicilian Historical Society is throwing a party to raise money for St. Jude Children's Hospital. The group of about 120 members, which operates Goomba's restaurant on Orchard Street in Fredonia, will host the Ox Roast at the Dunkirk Lighthouse all day, Sunday, July 19th. Rob Clark of the Sicilian Historical Society said the idea for the Lighthouse event came from highly successful fundraisers held at Goomba's. The July 19th event will feature sausage, hot dogs, and clam chowder for lunch from 11:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. Dinner will be served at 5 p.m. and will consist of roast beef, corn on the cob, and potatoes. Beer and soda will be provided. Admission costs $50. Tickets are available from several Sicilian Historical Society members and at Goomba's at 44 Orchard Street. Telephone 716-401-3030. That's 401-3030. And I'm abbreviating that article there about this upcoming Ox Roast on Sunday, July 19th. Still on the front page of the July 14th issue of the Observer, Chautauqua keeps moratoriums on energy projects, by Gregory Bacon. There are no wind, solar, or battery storage systems in the town of Chautauqua. Officials are keeping it that way for at least another year. During the Chautauqua Town Board meeting, officials passed a year-long moratorium on wind energy facilities, battery energy storage systems, and commercial solar energy facilities. The town had previously had moratoriums in place. The local laws will extend the moratoriums for another year. The town of Chautauqua and the village of Mayville recently created a joint comprehensive plan. The two municipalities are now separately updating their zoning codes. Officials said they wanted the moratoriums in place until the new zoning laws are completed. I'll cut that article there, and with this and any other abbreviated article, you can hear the remainder by calling Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 716-821-5555. There are several obituaries on page A2. I will read only the names and dates. Christine C. Meadows, born Covert, 1952 to 2026. Karen L. Brisley, B-R-I-S-L-E-Y, 1951 to 2026. Mary Malek, 1951 to 2026. Cedra, S-E-A-D-R-A, Cedra K. Panvert, born Rummel, 1981 to 2026. And Stephen A. Apps, A-P-P-S, 1963 to 2026. From page A3, Chautauqua woman dies after vehicle strikes bike. Chautauqua. A bicyclist has died after an accident last week on Chautauqua-Stedman Road, law enforcement officials reported Monday. At 12:55 p.m. Thursday, the Chautauqua County Sheriff's Office, Chautauqua Fire Department, and Chautauqua County Emergency Services responded to a reported motor vehicle accident involving a bicycle. An investigation found the operator of the vehicle, Levi J. Graham, 19, of Asheville, failed to safely pass a bicyclist while traveling south. The bicyclist was identified as Mary V. Husted, 78, of Chautauqua. Husted was flown from the scene by Mercy Flight to UPMC Hammett in Erie. She later died as a result of injuries sustained in the accident. Graham was charged with New York State Vehicle and Traffic Section 1122A for failing to safely pass a bicyclist. He will answer the charge later in town court. An arrest, page A2, 2 arrests, 2 from Hamburg charged in Dunkirk robberies. 2 Hamburg individuals connected to a pair of Dunkirk robberies are in custody. On Saturday, Robert Lyman, 32, was located and taken into custody by the Buffalo Police Department. He was transported to Dunkirk City Court, where he was arraigned on 1 count of third-degree robbery and 1 count of third-degree attempted robbery in connection with incidents that occurred June 16th at the Family Dollar on East 4th Street and Crosby Mart on Central Avenue of Dunkirk, I guess. Following his arraignment, Lyman was turned over to the Town of Hamburg Police Department to face additional charges related to a separate robbery that allegedly occurred in the town of Hamburg. Lyman is to return to Dunkirk City Court on August 18th for a preliminary hearing. During the initial investigation, officers interviewed a female who was in the area of the second robbery. During that interview, Michaela Miller, 31, provided investigators with information that significantly hindered the investigation. As the investigation progressed, detectives determined Miller was an associate of Lyman and was aware of the crime that Lyman had committed. As a result, she was charged with 1 count of second-degree obstruction of governmental administration. An arrest warrant was subsequently issued for Miller. She was later located in the town of Hamburg, taken into custody, and arraigned on the charge. Miller was released by the court and is scheduled to be in Dunkirk City Court at a later date. That's the end of the time. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from current issues of the Dunkirk Observer. We read from the Dunkirk Observer every Saturday at noon. Your reader has been Pat Connolly. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have a reading of our Northtown. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability which makes reading, holding a book,